Welcome to Pastor Doug's midweek VIP Bible study. As you can see, Pastor Doug is not here at the moment. He is double scheduled again, so way too busy, and he asked Pastor Jim and myself to fill in for him. So,
Well, we still do have Pastor Doug. It's
well, we
just
have,
not the same
you're
pastor.
right, it's not senior pastor, good looking Doug. We have tall,
That's very
well,
questionable,
that's
too.
his own little
Yeah.
nickname,
Rendition.
so
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't argue with him. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
stuck with Pastor Tall Doug today. But what we're going to go over today, briefly, is what Pastor talked about Sunday at church, and the title was "Relaxing in God's Goodness." And I think that's a little bit challenging sometimes. I know when we tell people to don't worry, to relax, just take a nap, just turn your brain off, you can fall asleep. Easy to say, but
Easy to say.
very
Yeah.
difficult to do.
Yeah.
So how do we do it?
Yeah.
Well, like everything, it's habits. And if we think about techniques and ideas on how to do some of these things, how to accomplish them, and we do it once, and then maybe we forget, and then a couple of days later we do it a second time, and eventually a third time. But if we can actually do it for what is it, 2 or 3 weeks back to back,
Hmm.
then it becomes a habit, and it doesn't require much or any thought. You just do it naturally.
Sure.
So one of the things that Pastor pointed out, one of his main points, is to remember my value to God.
Mm.
And when I think about that, one of the things that I love most is when people think about church, you think, well, am I good enough to go to church? And I have to fix myself first. I'm not worthy. Well, we're never going to be worthy. But when we think about our worth to God, He actually gave us His Son who died for us to show us how worthy we are to Him. So our perspective, frankly, doesn't matter, does it? If God thinks we're worthy, then obviously we are worthy.
Yeah.
Worthy in His eyes is huge. So if we can have that as our focus, and we can relax with that perspective, because we know the daily grind, the things that are weighing us down, just aren't that important.
Mm.
Certainly, we'll deal with them, and it's not like they just go away, but they can be put in their proper perspective and not weigh heavily on our minds. There's a verse here that Pastor highlighted in Sunday service, Philippians chapter 4, verses 12 through 13. And this is from the Apostle Paul, who says, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether I am well fed or hungry, whether I'm living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. I love actually
Yeah.
both those verses. They go
Yeah.
together really well.
They do. They do.
Any thoughts on that, Pastor?
Well, I was just going to say too, when you were speaking a minute or two ago about our worth to God, and how now that we're here, and I'm just about to celebrate my 73rd birthday, and I know you're a little bit younger than that, but
Hmm.
but we're only on this earth here for, let's say, an average of 70 years
Hmm.
between you and I, right?
Right.
But before we were here, millions and millions of other people were here before us. And of all the things that God created, he thinks most highly of human beings.
Hmm.
Not just us, but all human beings.
Right.
He loves us unconditionally just because of who he is, not
Hmm.
because of who we are or what we have done, but he loves us unconditionally because of who he is. And what that means is that that's what gives us our worth and our value, is not because of anything that we have done, but because of what God has done for
Hmm.
us.
Yes, definitely. And in this theme of relaxing in God's goodness, one of the points Pastor is making is about how we need to rest and take care of
And
ourselves.
that's so hard.
And it's very hard too, because we
So
have
hard.
busy lives
Yeah.
where we are motivated to get things done. We live in a merit-based society. If
Right.
you're not doing X, Y, and Z, you're not doing it right. So
Right.
work harder and get it all done.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem when we burn the candle at both ends, isn't
Mm,
it? We
yeah.
we we burn out quickly, and that also opens us up to the devil's strategies. If we are exhausted and fatigued, that makes us vulnerable. And he looks for those kind of opportunities.
That's
And
an
all of a
opening for
sudden,
him.
yes, sir, some doubt
Yeah.
comes in. Oh, I'm exhausted. My
Yeah.
back hurts. I can't do this. I can't get it all done. And you're thinking, come on, God, why is
Yeah.
it this way? And all of a sudden, you're starting to question things. So I think it's extremely important to take that physical rest so that we can focus on our spiritual um, well-being also.
Right. Because God doesn't just want us to do things. He wants us to be all that he has created us to be. And sometimes the best use of our time is not necessarily to well, it's a nice sunny day, so I think I'll go out and cut the grass. But actually, the best use of our time, or of this moment that we're in right now, might be to open up God's Word
Mm-hmm.
and see what it is He has to say to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a better use of our time. I love this subject of rest because God gave rest. He created the Sabbath. That's what we call it, the day
Mm-hmm.
of rest. He created the Sabbath not for him, but for us.
Sure.
Because God doesn't rest.
He doesn't need it.
Do you know the last time God took a day off?
No, no, I don't.
It's because he hasn't.
Sure.
He's never taken a day off. But you know, when he created us, while he created us in his image, he didn't create us to be just like him. He created us in a way that we need to rest.
Mm-hmm.
Our body needs it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've got a couple of family members who will say they claim they can't take a nap. They just can't do it. Well, I've walked into some of their houses on occasions, and
They're snoring away.
they're searching their eyeballs for cracks, or eyelids for cracks.
Uh, it's
I
good.
think it's a mental thing where, well,
Sure.
we're too busy, and oh, I can't nap. I've got too much going on.
Yeah.
Well, I can nap, and I do. I don't have
Same here.
any problem with it. I don't think it's necessarily an older man issue. I think it's maybe some gained wisdom
Yeah.
finally at this age
Yeah.
where we recognize that we need that. And if we were smarter when we were younger and followed God's leading, we would have done it then too.
Right.
But
And we're not
we're
that
just
smart
not
now.
that smart.
We're not that much smarter now, but
No,
we did come to realize that we do need to rest more.
we do.
Uh,
We
yeah.
do. And a lot of times when I am well rested, um, well, my overall mental state is better.
Much
And
better.
I have some thoughts that I may not have had previously if
Right.
when I was exhausted.
Right.
I have some good thoughts. I have some things that I think, well, that was pretty neat. That
Yeah.
must have come from God because as Pastor Jim said, I'm not that smart either. And what I do is I laugh at myself sometimes. So I have a thought like that and I go, oh yeah, yeah, you're right, God.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. Right.
You think that I'm
That
going to
had to
be,
come from
of
him.
course he's right. He's always
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm circling back a little bit here, but when Pastor was mentioning how we're only here for a short time and there have been millions, maybe billions of people here before us, I've noticed over on the office windowsill here, there's a sign that's a verse out of the book of Esther that says, perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created. So God put us here at this time and at this place for his reason.
Yeah.
I may not know exactly what that reason is, but in our crazy world, I'm trying to think of the tactful way to put this right now, where it seems like we've lost our direction, morals and values are seemingly out the window.
Oh,
I think
sure.
the church needs to be the leader more so now than ever. We can't cower or kind of hide under our staying inside of our little community. We have to lead by example and tell people how the best way to live. Not that we're smarter than anybody. We've established that many times now, but by following God's word. He is the ultimate authority. He is the source of truth. And if we point people towards that, it's their choice whether they want to follow it or not. But at least we pointed them in the right direction, and then they can hopefully have an impact.
Yeah. You can't go wrong following God's word, and you can't go wrong doing it as often as you possibly can find time to do it. You can't go wrong by resting more often than what you probably would want to, realizing that your body just needs to rejuvenate itself and get energized again. And so we hope that that's what you will consider doing.
And when you're doing that physical resting, sometimes the brain won't shut off. And one technique I recently heard is just pray. Not just, but how better to spend your time than praying to God, and He will give you that rest. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Come join us for worship service at 10 a.m. and hope you have a great week. God bless you.
God bless.